is there God? Is this all randomness? And sort of looking at the Western philosophers. And so now sort of we're coming slowly, gradually towards the Jain, from the Jain angle point of view. So let's just briefly look at nature of soul. So some people believe in just pure physics, science and physics, and for them they deny the existence of soul. There have also been people in the past who said if soul is a substance and we all believe in substances, then we have to be able to prove the soul. So I think there was a king during the time of Lord Mahavir who used to take prisoners and say, okay, let me really want to prove soul. So there's a prisoner, let me put him into a basket or like a glass encasement. And if there is soul and if he's going to die, then there has to be a crack in the glass, because if soul is going to come out of the body, then there has to be a crack in the glass. There has to be something which is coming out if there's a substance. And he does that test and he says no. Then he weighs the body. He says, okay, if the body has got a soul, before and after the body dies, then it has to be lighter, and he couldn't find that. So it's been puzzling people for a long time. Is there soul? And if it's a substance, why aren't we able to detect it? Just like science. Science has been able to detect quite a few things which are invisible. So, and yet science has been able to sort of make some inferences. So there's a lot of people who just deny, says, using all possible kinds of technology we have right now, we have not been able to prove the existence of soul. And then the others who actually believe in dualism. So, Jeev and Ajeev. Then you also had the Western philosophers who did not actually call it Jeev and Ajeev or soul and body, but they call it mind and body. So they thought like Descartes, he probably thought that mind is something similar to a soul. So then you could see the divergence. So they introduced the concept of consciousness. There is something more than the body. So then they believe in dualism. So where does Jain fit in? Obviously Jains believe in dualism. And Jains believe that there is Jeev and Ajeev, matter and consciousness. One of the most interesting things for Jainism is that if you look at Jeev and Ajeev, they're totally opposite characteristics, exactly divergent characteristics. So you can have two brothers or two siblings and exactly east and west. Not even as 1% of similarities between Jeev and Ajeev. So if you can think of whatever properties the body has, the soul has got exactly the opposite properties. So there is not a single similarity between Jeev and Ajeev. So what we have to believe in the concept of soul is going to be a few sort of beliefs from what's been written in the scriptures and perhaps from our own personal experiences. So if you look at Acharya Siddhasen, he's actually enumerated 6 eternal truths, and which are in the Acharya Sutra. Soul exists. So from our point of view, apne ke sharir ne atma juda hai. So atma, it's going to be a firm belief that atma che. And as we look at through some ways, and this presentation goes forward as to how can we convince ourselves there is something like a soul. It is eternal. I think Ketan really brought up the idea that if there is a creator God, as per the Western philosophies, then who created the creator God? And then what they call it is, it goes infinite. Who created that person? And you can just go on and on and on. And there'll be no answer to that. So Jainism have made it very simplistic. It says it's eternal. No one created the soul. No one has created matter. It's always been there. It is there, and it will always be there. It's almost like a scientific law. Energy is there. Energy cannot be destroyed. Energy can be neither energy can be created, but energy can be transformed. So in the same way, soul can never be created, soul can never be destroyed, and soul is always going to be existing. And same is matter. And very interesting, soul cannot convert into matter, and matter cannot convert into soul. They are two totally separate entities. And then obviously the other things, soul is an action doer, is a reaper of the fruits, there is liberation, and there is a path to attain liberation. Now, if you look at the Acharya Sutra, what is the nature of the soul? And he says the nature of the soul is something which knows, consciousness. I perceive things. So there's a difference between a dead body and a body which is live. And that consciousness, that feeling, the perception, that's what differentiates between a dead body and a living body. So that soul is got that consciousness. It is eternal, uncreated, and independent substance. No dependence on anything else. No sort of cause and effect. It's an independent substance. This third point is very important, imperceptible. If you look at a body can be touched, taste, color, smell. So because it's matter. So that can be done with the body. But soul has got the exact opposite characteristics. So there is no way you can smell soul. You cannot taste soul. You cannot, so you cannot see the soul. So it's imperceptible. And therefore, આપણે શરીર રૂપી છે and આત્મા અરૂપી છે. All articulations fail to describe it. There is no words which can describe soul. You can have volumes and volumes to describe soul. And in fact, in the Upanishads it says neti neti, which means soul ache na anathi, amche anathi. So they're actually describing soul by negation rather than positivity. It's not touch, it's not color, it's not this, it's not that. So it's essentially what is soul, and you're just at the loss how to describe what soul is. It's beyond the reach of mind, speech, logic, and intellect. So all this grey matter we have here, if we use all of it, we still can't comprehend what the soul is. From a substantial point of view, from a substance point of view, what is it? It is sentience, chetna. It's a potential property of soul. And the other thing is upayog. Upayog is a very word which comes quite frequently in Tattvat Sutra. Upayog in our sort of modern day terminology means utility. If someone is doing economics, what is the utility of money? So money in itself is not going to give you money. A £5 note, if you keep a £5 note, that £5 note in itself is not going to generate money for you. But the money has got utility. There's a purpose to that money. I can use it for something. I can give it to someone. So that money has got a utility. What's the purpose of that money? So same thing, what is the purpose of the soul? So the upyog, the soul of purpose is just consciousness. Pure consciousness, utilization, and that consciousness can be described as perception and knowledge. So in one way we say that soul has got infinite energy. Anant એની પાસે potentiality છે. But if you highlight the main features of a soul, it's that perception. I can feel it. Even if I cannot touch the heat, if I cannot see the heat, but I can feel the heat. So it's perception and it's knowledge. Again, under perception comes intuition. I cannot see some things here, but I have intuition. So that again it's a property of the soul. So the three main qualities of the souls are consciousness, bliss, and energy. It's a nice acronym one can use. BIKE, B-I-K-E, bliss. Anant, it's got Anant, utmost happiness, bliss, intuition. K is knowledge and E is energy. And that's what's amazing. What do you mean by energy? If you are down with fever and and if there is a 50 pounds note there, you really don't want to come and get up off your bed and pick up that 50 pounds note. You're so sick that everything is fine. You've got a body, you've got consciousness, but you just don't have that virya, the energy to get up and pick that money up. And that's the inherent energy to do things. The soul has got that energy, the potential of the energy. It's known by self-experience, self-awareness, and self-venture. Consciousness can be comparable to the sun. And a lot of people, that's why if you look at Bhaktama Stotra, many of the prayers use the nature to describe. The trees use the sun to describe. The sun, it's a star. No one's illuminating the sun. The gas is within the sun, it's self-illuminated and it's just giving out light on its own. Moon light, it's kind of a reflection. But the sun, it's on its own. The radiance of the sun is on its own. So it's not dependent on anything else. And the other thing which Jain, and this is quite interesting, which Jain said, is soul is in all parts of the body. A lot of people have said soul maybe could be in my heart region here, maybe it's just centralized here. So different Hindu philosophies or other philosophies might say that soul is in different parts of the body. But what Jains say, that Jains said soul is in all parts of the body. There is not a single part of the body where the soul is not present. However, what they also say is there are certain areas of the body which has got a higher concentration of awareness, and that's what they call chakras. So when people are doing meditation, it's quite common people say focus on your navel area, focus on your throat region, and that's what they say, that's the area where there's a higher concentration of the soul. For example, if someone has to have a bullet wound, if the bullet wound is on the hand, you'll still survive. But if the bullet wound was to happen either on the head or on the throat region, you will not survive. So there's a very strong concentration of soul consciousness around those regions that if you got hurt here, you'll still be able to survive, but not in certain other areas. So that's higher concentration of soul, but it's in all parts of the body. Now, people have described how do we then sort of reconcile that, looking at the soul, there are two categories of soul. Sansari, which it's transmigrating, and mukta, liberated. So essentially, it really fits into perspective, because we pray to God, and they also have got a soul, and that soul is no different from ours. That's another very unique feature of Jains, that every person's soul, every entity's soul is the same. There is not a single difference between an ant soul, an Aplo soul, or Deva's soul, or Narki's soul, or even Bhagwan Mahavir's soul. The soul is the same. And I think you can easily, one of the most interesting things which scriptures have done, when you talk of soul, soul is such an abstract entity, they use analogies to describe. How do we understand soul? Use different examples. So, suppose there are a lot of flags here. Every single flag is going to be the same, but yet they are all independent. If you went to get some clothes, when you go to the shop, every single cloth is the same. But once when you start using that cloth, then it will be depending on your use. But inherently, all the clothes are the same. Same with our souls. Then every person will have a different path. But essentially, all souls are inherently pure. So then we see that there are four categories. I mean, we've done through this many times in the past. The other interesting thing is that with the soul, there are different types of bodies which Jains describe. So soul is one, but now the soul can get different kinds of bodies. So the first body is the Odhric body. So that's the body which we have. That's Odhric body. Vekric body, that body is held by Devas and hellish beings. So what happens is, if you were to be born in one of those regions there, through your own energy, you can take different shapes and forms. So that's why we can see, in sort of many mythological stories, you can see someone says they can start taking different forms. They can become an animal, they can take different forms and shapes. So that's the power of that body, the Vekric body. The Aharak body is again a kind of another mystical kind of body, which they say that very pious sadhus and sadhvis or pious elevated souls, if they are here, and some example is like, for example, Acharya Kunkund. When he was on earth, he had some queries on, some doubts on soul. So what he would do is, go into meditation, that part of the body will actually then travel, kind of astral travel, go to Simandar Swami and get the queries, and that body will come back. So that's again been said in the scriptures. So a potential of some kind of body, something comes out of your body, travels to a certain distance, gets it, clarifies whatever the situation is, and gets the knowledge, and then that body then comes back to you. So that's kind of the Aharak story. The Tejas body is electromagnetic sharir, Apanama digestion power, and that's a kind of another kind of matter within us, and karmic body. So essentially, all of us, all souls, until they get liberated, will have Tejas and karmic body accompanying them. So that's given for all souls, animals, plant, and then depending on where you are born, you can have either of the Odhric sharir, the Vekric sharir, and Aharak sharir. So until liberation, everyone has got two bodies accompanying them, and then depending on where you're born, you have the other three bodies. And then again, these are the classifications of 1 sense, 2 sense, 3 sense, 4 sense, and 5 sense beings. Now, let's look at this. Before I go to that slide, if someone say, Sharisha, this we can see, can you please give me some description of the body? People will then can say, oh yeah, body, strong chair, weak chair, fair chair, dark chair. You can give so many qualities of the body. For the soul, is there anyone here? How many qualities can you talk of the soul with the class? So if anyone had to say, can you say, like, in the previous slides, we talked about 4 main bodies, BIKE, bliss, intuition, knowledge, and energy. Anything else? You can think of the qualities of the soul. Okay, so it's a blend. So let me do this. Let me go to this stage here. Jain Acharya has given 40 qualities of the soul, and what I would like to do is get some class participation. So why don't you go through some of them, and I would like someone to say, if you choose the first one, just give a description or give your perception of what you understand by that. So, devoid of old age, Ajar. Anyone? Any comments? Do you?
The soul stays at, it doesn't actually age at all, it just is.
That's right. So, the soul in itself is as it is. So, it does not, there is no birth, death. So, in its pure sense, it does not age. And if you also look at some of our prayers, Jara Marana. So Ajar is actually the opposite. So I say Hinsa. Hinsa is violence, or Hinsa is the opposite. So logos ke you can see the Ajar. So Ajar is devoid of old age. Next one, Anadi, beginningless. I think we looked at that. Beginningless. So essentially, there has been no beginning. Now, obviously, someone can argue that if the soul has had no beginning, so by default the presumption is that the soul was always polluted. So polluted means that karma was always attached to the soul. Because if the soul was a pure being, soul so pure as a karma, then the soul could not have been in sansar, it should have been in Chila. So essentially the fact that we are all sitting here, so at one point, do you think my Atma was totally pure? Action No. Ever since our beginning, we've just been impure, and the idea is to get to purity. It's not the other way around. It's not that we were pure at one point, then we did some actions, then we got some karmas, and now we're trying to get rid of the karmas. So that cannot be. Because if the soul was pure, it had no karma, then you cannot say, and that's a very strong argument Jains have against the Hindus, Bhagwan avatar. Jains cannot say, how can Bhagwan have avatar? If Bhagwan is Bhagwan, and Bhagwan is beyond the earth, how can then Bhagwan say, out of compassion, Maya, there's so much pain in the earth, let me take birth and let me get reincarnated. If you are a pure soul, how can you then want to come back here and get yourself polluted again? Then that means you're not God. You cannot be then pure. So that's one of the arguments which says it's beginningless. There has been so soul, there is no beginning. Soul was, soul is, and soul is always will be. So even after we get rid of our karmas, we are going to be in Sichila for immemorial time. So there is not going to be saying there is going to be an end to the soul. Oh, my God, Sichila pochi gyo, but Atma nathi, Atma is gone. No, Atma will be there. So Atma is not going. The soul is always going to be there. Indestructible, yeah.
Can I just ask you about that? Because I thought we said at one point before that the soul was pure. So if it started impure, how and why did it start impure?
So that's basically, it's a very difficult question, and in the sense that one has to make an assumption that it has always been impure, because what was the beginning, what was the first point, we do not know. And it's impossible to know, oh, this is the, even if you say billions of years or trillions of years, there is just no big beginning. So whenever it is, it has always been an impure. And some of what the scriptures say, and this again depends on your faith, the soul it actually starts in the nigoth form. So they say nigoth area that for infinite amount of time, souls have been in a nigoth. So nigoth is some kind of microscopic existence. They only got one sense of touch, and from what I've understood is you've got a single body, and in that body all the souls are within that body. So right now you are independent to do what you want, but because you're in a single body, all the souls are interdependent on one another, and it's a very painful kind of existence, because you do not have your independent existence. You have a single body, but that body has got innumerable souls within that body. And in that existence, people spend a lot of time. Or it's not people, souls spend a lot of time. So that's one way of people, how the scriptures have said, okay, one could have existed in that existence for so long, and then something happens that maybe because your consciousness, feeling then you evolve. So you evolve out of that state. You might have got an inherent compassion. I don't know what it is, but you feel something and then you start evolving out of that state.
I understood something different. I thought the soul was always pure, but the karmic particles around the soul stopped it from, behaving in a pure way.
Well, the thing is that soul is always pure. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But it's always pure means that that's kind of a hypothetical situation. That if all our souls here, plants, animals, inherently the soul, if you just take soul in itself and you remove everything, you strip out of everything else, then everyone's soul is pure. But if you look at all of us here, our purity is not yet manifested because we're not yet in Chichila. And which means that if you look at the past, that means it is a pure entity but polluted. So your pure essence is not shining right now, because that will only shine when all of us, not even when you get to Devlok, only when you go to Sitchila will that pure essence shine. So in a way, it's almost like saying that if there's Obama here, if he was a young child, he's going to be a potential president. Well, when he's a child, he's not a president. But if someone could see the future and saying, yes, he is now going to be the future president, that's why one of the kids here, oh, they're going to be a prime minister, future prime minister. But right now, we do not know who they are. They have got a potential of becoming a prime minister. So it's like the potentiality. The soul is potentially pure, but we are not yet in the pure state. But the substance which you're talking about is pure.
And where is that nigo?
People say that if you look at the cosmological structure, they say it's right at the bottom. It's in the shape of a triangular shape, the Jain cosmology. So it's right at the bottom end. So even below the seventh heaven. So that's what's been depicted in the scriptures. Now, some of these things are a question of faith, and if you're talking to teenagers or others, it's difficult to prove this. So many of these things are supposed to be based on your faith and what you believe in. Indestructible, Akshay. This is again very interesting. It even comes in the Upanishads. Okay, if you take the soul, the pure soul, if you take it to the sun's not going to be able to destroy the soul, just the pure essence of the soul. Yes, after body will get burnt. That's the body. So the soul, nothing can destroy the soul. You can take the soul and take it in the deepest of oceans. Deepest of oceans, the soul is not going to drown. That's pure essence of the soul. But obviously we are all clouded with the body. So and that's quite possible, because if you imagine soul, if you're born as a fish, then you can go to the depths of the ocean. Or if you're born as a fiery being, fire-bodied, then you can go to the sun and survive. So the soul has got the potential to survive wherever it is. It is only the body, clouded with the body, that makes it says, I can survive this or I can't survive this. But in essence, the soul is indestructible. So there is no weapon which can destroy the soul. If you kill, it says, this is a soul substance, let me take a knife and throw it, you cannot destroy it. The soul, just looking at the soul itself. Yes, when it's with the body, then it's got different parameters. It's devoid of parts. Akal. So there is no parts. Because soul, it's going to be in the kidney, and then elephant toy, it's going to expand in there. So soul cannot say, oh, our table change, we can say, oh, it's got atoms, it's got molecules. If you break down it, it's got different components, you can go further and further. Soul, you cannot break it down into parts. Soul is a one single entity. It can be as small as sort of nanometer, and it can be as big as you want it to be. What I'll do is, we'll come to some of this later if you've got some time. But now, what I would like to do is, I think this I covered, some of you might have seen these slides before, that in Namotranam Stotra, when we go up at Namotranam Tirapole, so there's one line which says, Shiva Mayala Moro Mananta Makkhe Moaba, Mapunar Disitti Nan Dev Thanam Sampattanam. So this is actually giving description of the soul in the Namathunam Stotra. And it's kind of interesting that what it's saying is, for example, Shiva Mayala. So Shiva actually means it's well-being. It's free from calamities. Shiva Mayala. Now, if just a little bit of digression, if you look at how it's written in the Shiva Mayala Maruva Mananta Makkai Mawapa, M is actually joining between the two adjectives. The actual word is Shiva, and we say the goes with Achal. So if it says, if you look at English part, Siva, S-I-V-A, it's actually Siv, then Ammal. But because you have to join the words together, it becomes Siva Mayala. So Mayala, M is actually a joining between those two words. The actual word is Shiv, Achal. But because you got A at the end and A at the beginning, and you have got two A's, what the rule in this Prakrit would be, remove those two A's and join them with an M. And if you look at that grammar, it's almost similar to English grammar. If you have monkey, it becomes monkeys, but if you have money, it becomes monies. You have to remove the Y and make it IES. So these are again the rules of how it makes. So if you're reading it, it's Shiva Mayala. Mayala means Achal. And Achal means, so like if you look at Achal, which is steady. Manbo Chanchal. Chanchal means fleeting. Mind is going from here. So Achal is exactly the opposite of Chanchal. It's steady. The soul is very steady. It's not wavering. So that's what the soul is. Siva Mayala Maruva. Maruva means Aruva. Aruva means it's got no rogue. That's how it's called Aruva. So soul has got no diseases. Soul cannot decay, has got no diseases. Aruva. Ananta. Ananta is a very interesting word. Anant means infinite. When we look at, in our concept, infinite is something very big. Infinite, one pass billions and billion pachi, trillion and trillion pachi, it goes higher and higher. But infinite can also go in the opposite direction of small and into minuteness. So if you look at infinite, the soul is an entity and it's got infinite qualities. And infinite means that nano entity, even a soul of an ant, very small, and it's got sort of so many qualities. So not only just vastness, but even inherently within itself, it's got infinite capacities. Anant. Akshay means indestructible, and Avyabad. Okay, so now we are going to do slightly different today. Okay, we are saying when we have a body, we can actually do some experiments and look at from a scientific point of view. But if you have to look at it, let's try to understand how can we understand soul. So for that, we're going to be doing some experiments here. To do some experiments, we need a quote here, a scientist's quote. Yeah, so I'm going to do experiments. I don't know if it's going to fit me. Two glasses, water. Now, in the rush of things, I forgot milk. So we have to assume this is water here, and there's going to be milk here. I just forgot to bring a milk in there just because of the rush. Now, if you have got two things here, milk and water, this, let's say, is soul. And this is sort of milk. So milk means body. Two different entities. What's going to happen if you're going to mix milk with water? What's going to happen? Sorry? It will cloud, and then if you just really mix it very hard,
it will look like milk.
Makes it one. So that's exactly how the scriptures have described soul and body. Existence. This is the soul, this is milk. If I mix them together, can you actually make out the difference? White once when it's now a mixed, it's become a mixture here. Now this is a mixture of milk and water right now. When you see this, can anyone then say, you cannot see that. And then can you say, oh, pani to khali nichena part ma che, upana part ma milk che. Oh, so the water is only, it's resting at the bottom and only the top part is milk because I've mixed them. No, it's interspersed. there is not a single volume of this mixture here. You can say, okay, oh, this is water and this is milk. You cannot make any differentiation between them. And that's exactly what the scriptures have said. Okay, in our existence right now, we are in this state here. Okay, they're intermixed. Body and soul are as mixed each other. You cannot say, oh, this is just my body here, my soul is just here. They are intermixed, interspersed, you cannot make any difference out. You cannot even say, okay, let me do some evaporation and get the two separate. No. But soul ma iche, at least we can do that. That once when you go to Sitchila, then this mixture is going to separate out. So that's kind of the first experiment, and this is given in the scriptures. Okay, exactly. Okay, for once to experience, okay, people have been saying, okay, can you please really explain to me what is this soul and body? How is this interaction? We can't understand this. And they said, this is exactly how it is right now. You are intermixed, interspersed. You cannot differentiate what is between one and with the other. They've got two different properties. Our Panini properties is very different from milk's properties. It's got no calcium. Milk has got calcium. Two separate entities, two separate properties. But once when they are together, they behave like one, they look like one, they feel like one, but essentially they both have got their separate properties.
There's soul in that empty cup.
Huh? The soul in the empty cup. So that's the first thing. Now, the next question which has been perplexing the lot of these sadhus and everyone, soul moksha. That means earth we've got gravity and we've got force. But say if you go to moon, maybe the gravity is much less. And who knows, if you go to some of the distant planets or somewhere else, there might just be no gravity at all. There's just nothing. So what then makes a soul actually go to moksha? Is there some kind of force? How does my soul, even if I have to be born somewhere, how does my soul know where moksha is? And their example they've given is tennis ball and water. So what's going to happen if I now have this tennis ball is here, if I now push this here, what's going to happen to the tennis ball? If I again push it very hard, what's happening to the tennis ball? It's just coming up. Now if I take a stone, I didn't bring a stone here. If I put the stone, what's going to happen to the stone? Drop down. So that's what they've said. Soul, all souls inherently, it's the inherent capacity. If it's rid of all the karmic bondage, its propensity, natural propensity, what the soul wants to do it by itself automatically, without anything, it just wants to go up. The soul just does not want to be bound. If you present so right now the soul is being bound by karmas and everything, it's bonded. As soon as all these karmas are released, then if you release it, there is no force. You could be in any part of the world, the natural propensity of this is to just rise up. And that's exactly what the soul wants to do. It wants to go to moksha, so the soul will then just rise up and go to the moksha. Nothing is going to hinder it. There is no force required. Or if there is force is equal to mass times acceleration, no. It's a natural propensity of the soul. If you have got matter, Pudgal, if it's stone, you put it here, stone will just want to stay here. Stone has got no consciousness, it's got no natural propensity to say, let the stone now go to Sitchila. Stone will not fly to Sitchila. So that's one area. That's a natural propensity of this, and that's what they've given the example. And that's how they describe how the soul will then go to the Sitchila. So all souls, any soul would then, and obviously we know that moksha then it's only from the karma of the earth. So this propensity exists only on earth. So if you're in Devlok or in hell, you just don't have the opportunity for this to happen. You get rid of your karmas and go up. Now the other interesting question that comes up is the most difficult part for most of us here is we've got a body, we've got a normal mundane life, and we've got a soul. How are we supposed to lead our life? It's very confusing. People talk about soul, and yet we all got our professions and we have to earn a living and everything. So how are we supposed to reconcile between both divergent? Atma ni baat karo, that seems to be so different. Atma ni baat karo. We've got a body and we've got all this corporate politics and we've got anger and growth and everything. So how are we supposed to reconcile two things? So for that I need two volunteers here. So two ladies, anyone, two ladies? Two volunteers? It is going to be ladies. That's why I'm saying quite. It has to be ladies. 610. 610. That's one there. Another one. 2 ladies, please.
How many quick?
We have time.
Just choose someone.
Okay. So now for this, there's another experiment here. Now you have to imagine that you are sort of in a village in India, and you are sort of 18, 20-year-old girls. They're just sort of 18, 20-year-old girls. 18, 20-year-old girls. And as you know, in those olden days, you had to go to the river and then get some water and bring it back. So for cooking and everything, you had to bring the rivers. So and then you would sort of go towards the river and bring that back here. And whilst you are walking, what you do is you sort of gossiping, you're talking about any general things. You like someone because you're 16, 18-year-old, so you're just discussing about Chotu and Munna and whatever. So what we want to do is, imagine these are the 2 pots of water on your head. You're supposed to walk toward the end and come back, and yet at the same time talking. So you've got these pots of water on your head. You're best of friends, so you're holding hands, and you're discussing about. And if you don't want to talk about boys, they can talk about your sasu or whatever you want to talk about. But you are now. So there you go.
Oh my God. What happened?
You're now just supposed to now with that. You're now just supposed to walk and just talk.
Alright,
Hand in hand.
And also the other hand has to be. You're now supposed to be so adept at this that you're supposed to balance it on your head. You're not supposed to be holding it.
Perfected the hook. Might fall down.
There you go. All right. Thank you. Now this anecdote was given by Anandanji Maharaj. Anandanji Maharaj, he was a kind of quite a mystical saint, and he says that people talk about sharir and atma and how we're supposed to balance our life. And he gave this example. Look at these 2 ladies going to the river Mazai. They are so mathama pot raikoche. They are going there. They are very conscious of the balance of hayas rakeche. They are so skillful, and yet they are talking about general things. But their awareness is always on there. So, if there's any obstacles on the way, they'll be very careful. This pot does not fall down. And as they're walking along, and that's exactly, he says, that's how one should lead their life. Your awareness subconsciously is always on towards the soul. You might be doing your business, you could be doing your studies, you could be doing whatever you want to do. You might even be at war. You might even have to go and fight with someone. But no matter where you are, you could be in the battlefield or you could be blissfully in the monastery. No matter where you are, life is, but your consciousness is, your focus is always on that. So, you could be doing whatever activities. You could be healthy, you could be sick. No matter what environment you've been put in, but that's how the focus of life is. And that's exactly the example he gave. Ladies, look at them, how they make it so sound easy. They're talking about other things, they're talking about mundane things, what's happening here, but their subconscious attention is towards that. And that he gave that's a very nice example of how one leads this kind of dual life. Now, something else.
Another example given is of a mother and a small baby.
You're right. Rasodama hoye ke kaam karta hai.
Just like under 1-year-old baby. So this is what I read. Okay, the mother's attention is always on the baby. Though she's doing all the work, so she's managing to do 2 things at the same time. Her awareness is on the baby. baby, though she's working.
Right. And that's a classic example, yeah. The other example is a sword in a sheath. Obviously, I couldn't get a sword with a covering in it. But now let's say example, I've got this knife here and this is the covering of the knife. If I come here and if you're just playing some games here right now, if I've just been playing some games, if I sort of come here, this has got strength because of, even though it's got a covering, inside here there's something sharp. But now if I just remove this thing in itself, does it have any utility? So this has got no utility. It's only because this is there inside here, does this have utility. So even if I look at it, it's going to slice. Because there's something inside. I cannot see it. So if it's totally covered, I cannot see what's inside here. But I know, okay, this is a covering and inside here is something sharp. So this is the soul and this is the body covering. Whatever utility we have, everything which is here, there's something inside here. Once, if you just take the body on itself and take this on itself, this body in itself has got no utility. This body in itself cannot do anything. And these are all examples from the scriptures. This is not something which I've just come up with, but these are all examples in the scriptures which are trying to explain that what is the, how are we to convince ourselves that there's something like a soul within our body. Something else. Srimad Rachandran. Right, as I said, yeah, all these examples are quite. The other one is a candle. So there's a candle here, and I'm going to light. So one candle here. Now, when you look at these things here, a candle thing, if we were all monks, all of us will have a different experiences, and you all will be able to give some different experience just by looking at this. So, examples, these are just some of the examples, but the same thing, if you just think about some of these things, or just look at things around you, you'll still be able to see so many analogies. And the beauty about the scriptures are that by looking at things around, you can make so many different analogies. Just look at things around you and you can start something can inspire you and you can start making the connection with the soul. If you look at this candle here, there are so many different things which comes up here. The first thing is, it's actually, as time goes on, it's going to consume itself. It's going to burn itself out. But whilst it's burning, it's still giving out heat and light. So it's almost like a rose or a flower. If someone's going to give a kick to a tree, what comes down is a fruit. You could insult the tree, but what's going to come down is a fruit. So inherently, now this again has got another example here. This is a light. This is a flame here. The flame has got two properties: one of giving light and one of giving heat. Where is the heat? So can you just see Atma how can Atma have blissful, how can it have intuition, how can it have knowledge? Well, just we can see a flame has got two properties in itself here. A single thing can give you light and can give you heat. Same as the sun. Sun apne light ape and heat ape. Two things. Same thing with this here. So why isn't it possible to then believe that Atma has got infinite attributes? We can maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. We can think about this candle. But the soul will have infinite such qualities. The other example they've used the candle flame here is, now Sitshila, if you look at it, is a finite space. If you look at room, how many people can we fit in here? Maybe 100, maybe 200, maybe 500, maybe 1,000. But capacity also we will not be able to fit a single person more in this room here. So how is it possible that Sitshila all infinite souls can go into Sitshila? Is that space big enough to fit us all in? How can it be space big enough to fit all the souls in there? And what the examples the scripture says, if I now look at this room here, one candle is giving radiance to this room here. If I switch off the lights, if I now have two candles here, will they start competing, saying, no, they too will start giving the same radiance to this light? If I've got 1,000,000 candles in this room here, are they going to be saying that, sorry, I can't give? They're still going to give the same radiance to the whole room. So essentially, giving radiance in this room here is not dependent on how many candles you got here. They each inherit. But then if I now just say and cover this up, that's I can't see. But if I just as soon as remove that covering, it gives it. So again, there's another example. Yes, Solma Athena, there's a lot of potentiality. Once when you remove the karmas, then it's going to shine by itself. So the answer they've given in the scriptures is okay, in that area at Sichilama, it's like, I don't know if you also looked at a piece of wood chair. I can now take and put a red color on it, and after a while I can put yellow color on it. On the same space here, I can put as many colors as I want. It's not going to increase its thickness. It's just going to keep on lapping. So same way in the Sichila, there could be infinite number of souls. So in one space, in this one space here, you could have as many souls as you can. So there's no limit of how many souls can be present in Sichila. It's infinite number of souls. Because even if it's this dimension, in this dimension, even if in one nano space mark, you can have infinite souls. So even if it's this big, you can have infinite. So it comes to a situation whereby that you can have as many souls as you want in Sichila. And they've given examples of this kind of lamps. Ek room ma tame ek tame divo rakho, ki aa room ma tame 500 diva rakho, the radiance is still going to be the same. It's going to give out. Yeah, they're not going to say it's going to be that much more. They're all going to give out equal radiance in this room here. I think that's just about 10 more minutes left, and let me. I think the other example they've given here is seeds. Seeds comes very common in the scriptures. Okay, if you look at the seeds, it's a black seed, but look at the potential. If you look at this black, you say, what usually does it call? But that seed, when you crush it, it gives you oil. We do not understand the potentiality of it. Potential. So if once someone realizes Atma potential, then people can start realizing it. So when people do intense meditation, people start his sort of samyak darshan thegu or his self-elevated soul, you can then see there's a difference between people like you and me and people who are much elevated. So if you look at Acharya Shri, if you look at Sadhishila PG, all these, they're all humans like you and me, but yet they've done something with their lives, and something which the seeds within them, and they made their life much more meaningful than what you and I are doing right now. So that's another example. They use that seed very seed. Can you imagine there was a seed which was born, which was an apple tree, and from the apple tree, Newton when he discovered gravity. From a simple seed became an apple tree to gravity, and look at what's science has changed forever. And look at what they're looking at, planets and everything. So just from a simple thought and how much we have progressed in those just few hundred years in what science has done. Other very common example, in which I might touch on later on, and which is more appropriate towards karma, is the pot and the water. I was actually planning to bring roti load here and get two ladies to do some roti load, but I think it didn't get onto it. But this is another example here. Okay, you put all the ingredients here. You got the clay, you got the water. But clay and water by itself is not going to make the pot. So they are known as instrumental for making the pot. They are not direct causes, but they are instrumental. Yet you need the water to actually make the pot. So he's a direct cause of making the pot, and yet the instrumental causes are going to be the water and the clay. And you need both of them. If you had just the potter by himself, but without the clay, the water, without the instrument, so our nimit. So nimit is something which is instrumental. So, and that is going to be much more appropriate when we discuss the karma and the soul. But that's a very common example which is being given. How that works, which is a direct cause and what is an instrumental cause. The other example which comes quite frequently again in karma is this boat with a hole in it. Boat ma hole hoy, pani automatically ave. No one has to do any action. So the fact that we have got a soul and we have got karmas already attached to us, so we are not yet perfect. Krodh, man, maya, apram ave, automatically karmas are just filling into our boat, into our body. So the first thing which now we need to do is to get rid of the karma, is plug the hole. Asrav, samvar, bandh, all the concepts of the karma then is beautifully illustrated through this example of a bowl, of this boat with with water in it and with a hole in it. First thing, you need to plug the hole. So you want to get rid of the water. So so and then that's how you make it pure. So that's another example which has been given for that. And lastly, the other example which has been given is gold. And this is something very beautiful, because you might have heard when we discussed in class, the whole Agams was written when Bhagavan Mahavir said just 3 words to Gautam Swami and all the Ganadhars. Upne eva, Vikne eva and Due eva. Said all substances, and this is very important, Jeev and Ajeev. So even matter and soul, they are both substances, and all substances have got permanence, have got they are permanent, they are changing, and they are continuing. So creation, destruction, and permanence. So that's origination, destruction, and permanence. So everything has got those 3 things. But then it might be a bit confusing. How can you say origination and destruction? At one point we say, okay, Atma, there is no origination and there is no destruction. So how can you say there is origination and destruction? That seems to be kind of tautological. But what that means is, Atma is Atma. As a substance, it's permanent. And the origination and the destruction are the modes. The modes means, yeah, gold is gold. Gold is always going to be gold. But the gold can be changed into a ring, into a necklace. Gold bar che, and then melt karo, and now I want to make a necklace. And I want a ring karvi che. So those are the different modes. But gold will always remain a gold. Gold will not become silver. So the gold will never be, so that substance of goldness always remains there, but the modes are originating and destroying. Same thing with our soul. Soul is there. Right now I'm a human form, I could be another form. Until you go to Sitchila, you'll always have that. An interesting question comes is, if you Sitchila ma jao, so it's a permanent state. How can you have this origination and destruction in Sitchila? Because there you are lying, you have got no rebirth or anything else. If you then imagine, if you are in Sitchila, so Sitchila ma sota you are a pure soul, you got Anant Gnan, you got Anant Darshan, you got infinite knowledge. If you are in Sitchila, you understand what are my thoughts before, what are my thoughts now, and what are my thoughts going to be in the future. But essentially what's going to happen is that the person there is not in control of my thoughts. The thoughts are mine, so there is no determinism. So someone is not controlling my thoughts. I'm independent to control my thoughts and my actions. So if you're in Sitchila there, then what's going to happen is that their modes are going to be dependent on us, because our reactions are going to be different. So they're going to be, they have in their capacity to know, they are in the permanent stage. But what's rising and what's destroying is our modes, the whole sansar. Everything else is in a state of flux. So by merely them, they're observing something is rising and something is destroying. They're observing, oh, this is arisen in earth, this was the state, and this is now sort of gone away. So by mere observation, that they themselves are in the pure form. They are in the gold form there. But all the necklaces and everything which is on earth, that's what they're observing. So that therefore, principle it's also applicable to Siddha souls. Because how is it applicable to me here? To me it's applicable by saying that I'm a soul right now. In this birth I'm a human, in my next birth I will be something else. So those are my modes right now. But Sitchila Majao, then you don't have any different modes. You are just pure soul. Then these are that they can start observing or noticing things which is happening beyond Sitchila. So that's where the origination and destruction comes through. So that's again a very important concept, and this is a very in-depth philosophy, because if you now look at just on this concept, one can discuss the Hindu faith, because Brahma, the Hindus talk of just Brahma, and they're just talking about the pure permanent state. We are going to merge into Brahma. So when Jains are discussing 3 things: the permanent state, and something which is rising, and something which is destroying. So Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar, origination, destruction, but what Jains are saying, there is no God like that. We don't believe in that concept of God. Some God is creating, some God is destroying, and some God is, Brahma is just everlasting. Jains had used that concept of reality to describe reality, but not as gods. But what sort of Hindus then are describing the similar concept, but attributing them to a God. Oh, there's a God who is controlling this. So Jains differ that there's no God, it's just a nature. That's what it is. I think we've got about 10 more minutes. So Any questions? So I just thought that give a little bit of description of from the scriptural point of view, and then make it a little bit light-hearted using some experiments to see to convince and get convinced that there is something like soul, and what scriptures have used and given analogies of you know, getting faith in having a soul. Yeah.
You can recognize me, I can recognize you. If your soul comes out, if my soul comes out, and the two souls here separate, can they recognize each other?
So souls can recognize. Soul has got the inherent capacity of knowledge and intuition. So soul, if a soul is just pure, that pure soul, purity, if you're talking now, if you now look at this, for example, what Jains believe is a two-step process. So right now we are polluted with karmas. If you now get rid of the karmas in a human form, so for example, when Mahavir got Keval Gnan, or Atyana, what we believe that Simandar Swami in Mahavir Kshetra, he's an Arihant. Arihant means he's got a body like you and me. He has got rid of his 4 Ghati karmas. So therefore, when you got rid of those 4 karmas, he is sure guaranteed to go to Siddhshila. But he's still got some karmas left. Ayushya karma and other 4 Aghati karmas. So that soul, Simandar Swami's soul, is now there is no difference between Simandar Swami's soul, who is on, let's say, Earth, like in Mahavidya Kshetra, an Earth-like planet, Mahavidya Kshetra. He's on Earth, he's got a body like you and me, maybe a different body, maybe it could be a giant body, because they're given description, Akla Dhanushni any body. So his size could be quite large, but he's in a human form, he's destroyed his karmas, and that soul can see everything in the past, knows the present and knows the future. The only difference between his soul and Mahavir's soul is that he's still got a body, he needs to get rid of the body, and once he gets rid of those 4 Aghati karmas, he'll go into the same status as Siddhshila. So that's the reason why Arihants comes first before Siddhshilas. Mahavir's soul, Santinath Bhagwan's souls, Adeshwar Bhagwan's soul, they're in Siddhshila. Not a single soul in Siddhshila can help us. They are beyond this Rag and Dvesh. So our best hope is we go to, if you want to have a Tirthankar right now would be someone like Simandar Swami. Or we have to wait until the next 24 cycles comes and we now get, so when we believe, Jains believe Krishna Maharaj is going to become a Tirthankar. Lord Krishna, he's going to be a Tirthankar. So and like that, so we will have the next 24 cycle of Tirthankars. So what Jains, according to Jains cosmography, they believe that there are other universes elsewhere, and at any given point of time, the maximum number of Tirthankars are 172. So 24 here, here Mahavidya Kshetra, there could be 20, in other planets. So if you look at all those different regions, the maximum number of Tirthankars existing at any given point in time is 172. 170, 172. Anyone knows? Is it 170 or 172? 24 times 5. I think it's 170, not 172. Yeah.
No, under 20.
Because even if you go to Leicester and Derasama, you can also see 24 Tirthankars of this last and the next one. But that's just on Earth. And they were past, and the other 25 are still going to come. But right now, we believe that there are 20 Tirthankars in Mahavidya Kshetra existing right now. But I mean, this is something, it's again a matter of belief. But to answer your question is that a pure soul can recognize everything. Once when in your pure state, you can recognize all Jeev and Ajeev, even matter, and all their modes. So our molecule, what was this molecule billions of years ago? What is this molecule now? And after billions of years, this table might get destroyed. And this molecule, one small molecule, what's going to happen to this molecule? It's not consciousness, it's matter. What's going to happen to that one? You as a pure soul will know that. So not only will you know about my soul and his soul and everyone else's soul as Jeev, but you'll also know about the past, the present, and the future. So it's infinite knowledge. You have got infinite knowledge. Anant Gnan. It's beyond human intellect to comprehend. How can you have?
If you say there are only maximum 170, one is about that. So that means there's some sort of a suppression. So souls cannot evolve, more souls cannot, if they're already 170 there.
170 Tirthankars. Yeah. I think that's a question of, like, there's been no exact answer. So someone asked, why are there only 24 Tirthankars? Why not 25? Why not 23? Now, I've not come across a very direct answer to that, but my gut feeling says that if you look deeper and deeper into it, there might be so many other factors which our human brain cannot comprehend. So, for example, one possibility could be that Tirthankars are born when there is certain confluence of astral bodies. Aaj configuration thai, to na Tirthankar is being born. And it might just so happen in that time period, only 24 such occasions occur when those souls can be born. So why not 23, why not 25? There are certain answers which we do not know. Then you say, that isn't it a suppression? That 24 Tirthankar thai gaya, but marma par potential to che Tirthankar banwani. Tumhare 25th banvu hot to? Well, not when 24 have been decided, then the 25th been decided, you'll have to wait until the next cycle to become the next 24 or somewhere else. But in this earth, if it's been decided there are just 24 Tirthankars, there are 24 Tirthankars. So, so there are certain things which you just have to then believe, okay, why 170, why not 175? And again, Emapan, sometimes what happens is there are some differences of opinion. Dikambars might say 170 che, the Swatambars might say 172 che, and then you might be thinking that alaka beit jo disagreement karta hai, so is it really hase jeklo ke satchu ke pottu hase? There are certain things which, you know, we are in that time period that, you know, there are really no answers, and you just then have to go by your faith and say, it seems possible. They might be agreeing that Bhagwan Mata ne 14 sapna tha, 16 sapna tha. Now who is going to now say that agla sapna tha, 12 sapna tha? I think eventually, Vinod Bhai once said, when you're looking at such factors right now, when you want to look at the purity of the soul, universe arm che, chord che, triangle che, what difference does it make to you? You just want to, you're concerned about the purity of your soul. You don't care whether the universe is shaped in a circle or in the shape of a glass. You just want, you're concerned about how can I get rid of my kashais. I think just lastly I can say that if someone read the news 2 days ago, I think if you put into Google or going into BBC news site, there's a lady in Norway who believes that she's like a cat. Anyone read the story? So just if you type in Google, a lady who believes, so she believes that she's like a cat. So she'll start purring like a cat. And she likes walking on all fours. So she by naturally, so if she's going shopping wherever she's going, she's actually going on all fours. She drinks milk like a cat, and she really believes that she's like a human, but she's like a cat but trapped in the human's body. And in a way, when you read that article, it just makes you feel like reincarnation is almost so real. Okay, here's a person who is going, it's on BBC, if you type type it and just Beti Ospelaj. She says that she can see much better at night than at daylight. So like a cat's vision, smelling to things which we can't smell, she can smell. So if something is sort of far away, the scientist tested her, so she has got that power of smelling. I can smell something which is so far away. And just kind of just shows another example of the concept of reincarnation. Alright, Jain, everyone.